Questions, comments, clarification. Talk to me, folks. Pick my brain.
Keith?
Steve?
You mentioned a couple of minutes ago about we have a project in which I spoke to Dan about that is stage 1, 2, and 3. Stage 1, DA approved. Yes, we have started building this project. We are halfway through, we've spent X amount of dollars and need X amount to finish it plus fit out. So we have put the shovel in the ground. Is that a problem?
Not if we're setting stage 2 rather than stage 1.
Yep.
So that comes down to timing and when you're going to apply for that club grant, basically. So you're not going to obviously apply for stage 1 because you've already started stage 1. Why would they go retrospective, right?
Yes.
So I'd be looking at.
So I would say to you, sorry to interrupt you.
That's right.
So stage 2 is when the rain stops, which we spoke about COVID and weather, trying to get a concrete pour on to get stage 2. Then for us, we've got a massive fit out of a gymnasium, function area, masseur rooms, change rooms. But then going forward, we're talking about our turf's been down now for I think it's about 8 years, so it's ready to be replaced in the next 18 months. So are we better off going and trying to get a grant on this building that we've currently got in work, or talking about going forward of replacing turf and lights, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's about going forward, and I think what it is you have to give yourself focus and scope in terms of, right, if we're going to substantiate a relationship, what are they going to be enticed in funding? And I think you need to go to them with a new value offering, which is not what you're doing right now, but where they can come in with what you're doing in the future, basically, while at the same time giving them some latitude and leaving the door open, maybe that they're still enticed by what you're doing right now at the same time. So I think you quantify and qualify what you have. Then you got to go, what are we going to go in and introduce to them and sell? And I'm saying that because not only and this is to reiterate what I said earlier on, not only is there funding opportunities through grants, they could come in as a sponsor. They could come in and do fundraising for you. There's other vehicles of opportunity or avenues of opportunity here in terms of how they can contribute funding to you. So they could put you in touch with their suppliers, their contractors who could come on board as sponsors. There's other facets of what they can do. They could do a club fundraiser at the club for you. All these different things. Again, I think you need to quantify and qualify, sell the big picture to them, sell them where you're at in that big picture, showing the commitment already financially the club has made, and where basically you see Clubs New South Wales, particularly your local club, fitting into that.
Okay. Cheers.
No worries. Anyone else, folks?
Thanks, Keith.
Yeah.
I just want to.
Sorry, just a quick one.
Yeah, off you go, Michael.
Yeah, Michael. Our club, we're actually 2 clubs, so a junior and a senior club, separated, sharing ground and facilities, and we're also sponsored by different clubs, New South Wales clubs, sort of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So wondering how that would sort of impact on like an application for a grant.
Well, you know, Michael, it's okay because you got 2 different clubs applying, right? So as long as both clubs don't apply for the same funding round.
Yep.
In other words, junior doesn't go up against senior.
Yeah.
I'd be more tactile about it and go, right, which one are we going to apply for this? Which club is going to apply this year?
Right.
Because you're competing against each other then.
Yeah, I guess my main question was it doesn't impact that we have relationships with different registered clubs.
Yeah, exactly. So you can apply then differently to different funding rounds, basically. But I just don't want to see any perceived conflict of interest. I don't want to see stepping on. I mean, you could apply for 2 different projects and then apply, and they'll vet it and go which project they're enticed to fund. So theoretically, both clubs can still apply, both junior and senior. But basically, at the same time, it's like I'd rather go with one identifiable project from one identifiable club.
Yep. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I just wanted to briefly mention, I guess, we're talking about club grants at the moment, and Keith touched on, I guess, potential other grants. Certainly at the start, talking about there are going to be other grants coming down the line, particularly this year, and certainly that's the case with the Officer Sport the multi-sport facility grant. We did a webinar a couple of weeks ago about that. That was round 1. Round 2 is coming. It'll be in the new financial year, so after July 1, that will come out. So some good money there for infrastructure as well. So keep an eye out on that. We're certainly, from a football perspective, we've got a Women's World Cup, less than 500 days now away. And we're working with the Office of Sport to create a legacy fund for football clubs only. And so there will be fairly certainly there will be some form of funding for infrastructure and program-based stuff as well, but certainly from an infrastructure space for football clubs in the lead up to the World Cup, during the World Cup, and post the World Cup. Ideally, we're still kind of working out the details behind that, but certainly there will be some money there. So again, back to what Keith was saying, is planning for your projects and getting your ducks in a row now, getting your letters of support, getting all your business case together now, because there will be opportunities for funding, whether you go for the club grants category 3 that's currently open, whether you go for the multi-sport in a couple of weeks' time, whether you go to club grants in 6 months' time when they open again. Like there is a constant feed of money that comes through, particularly from the state government, even so at a federal government level as well. So you just got to get prepared, and that's the key. As Keith was mentioning, if we can get clubs like yourselves prepared, you're going to be better off in applying for that funding. We've also got, I mean, we're probably close now. It may or may not work. We've got a federal election only, months away, and depending on where you're situated across the state, there's certainly potential there to get your project in front of your local member, and you never know. There is funding that gets thrown out through this election process, particularly at the federal level. So that is a way that clubs have got money previously. It's certainly not a guarantee. There's no grant submission immediately as part of that, but it is a fairly haphazard almost approach by the politicians sometimes, and it comes up to the weeks before the election, and they want to try and, as it's been before, buy votes in essence, and they'll give out 100,000, 200,000, whatever it might be, for clubs in whatever sport it might be across the state and country. So keep that in your back pocket as well. If you've got a relationship with your federal MP, potentially start one. The other one is obviously at the next level down, the state government. That's a big one. We've got an election in just over 12 months now. Next March is the next state election. So again, an opportunity to plan over the next 12 months and start to introduce your state MP to your club if you haven't already. Show them, bring them down to your facility during a gala day or a presentation day. Then tell them about the actual project, particularly from an infrastructure perspective, what you're actually looking to do, and then reinforce that. Come back again in a couple of months and say, hey, we need a letter of support. We're applying for this, etc., etc. Keep them in the know about your club and about your project. And things again can happen, particularly in the lead up to the election. 3-6 months before. We saw that certainly in the last election, both state and federally, that I was involved in. There was a number of clubs that did get a good chunk of money for projects. 750,000 for amenities building in Bankstown in the East Hills electorate. There was 450 from a federal level that was given to a local club for drainage and irrigation and lighting, etc. So there are possibilities there. You just need to get out there and show them, I guess, what you have and what you can do. And so again, it's being prepared and planning for that, rather than kind of just off the cuff and giving them some information. Try and get yourself pre-planned and get that all information jotted down. And we do have, which I can share with you if you haven't already seen it, we've got a club facility project guide that we've put together where we've kind of helped clubs. Here's the questions that you need to answer as part of a grant application. It is the similar questions that you would see in a grant application, and we've put that in a facility document for clubs that they can kind of fill out and have 60, 70, 80% of the grant kind of almost finished, and go and collect those letters, tick that box off. And so when that grant does open, you've got in essence, a document ready to go when that grant opens, and then you can start populating the grant through the information that you've already received and collected months ago, rather than doing it as Keith said, the week of when it's due, and that's what makes it sloppy from that perspective. So planning is certainly the key. And the other thing that I wanted to mention, the last thing as well, is a lot of the state government grants, particularly, they talk about strategic alignment is a big term that's now being introduced in a lot of these grant applications. And from a club's perspective, your strategic alignment with your association, if you're a community club or if you're an NPL club, with Football New South Wales, and the same from the community side as well. But we have a New South Wales infrastructure strategy that we've completed in late 2020. There is a lot of information there that you can link back to as part of your project to show how your project is linked to the Football New South Wales strategy from an infrastructure perspective. That will give you some points and shows that the club is doing a bit of research and can say, well, we're looking to build a new female-friendly change room. That's one of the pillars in improving inclusive facilities is one of the pillars in our strategy. So linking your project to the state infrastructure strategy plan is a perfect opportunity to show how you're aligning with the strategy of the state body, and potentially you can find some information about how it links to the federal body, e.g. Football Australia as well. So where you can provide those linkages, that really does assist in your project as well. So I'll send out a link to everybody as well, so you can have a copy of that, but some good pages in there that you can link your project to. That's the few things that I just wanted to mention to you all. Yeah, there is opportunities out there, and there will be in the coming years, certainly from a funding perspective. So don't don't think that this is the only opportunity that you're going to get. There will be others that'll come. And I think the big thing is to continue applying. I think is that you're not going to be successful the first time you apply. Very unlikely. If you are great, fantastic, that's really good. But particularly in some of the the club grants category 3, there is, as Keith mentioned, there are a lot of people that apply, and there's only a certain amount of people that can get the money. So and that happens with all of the grants that get submitted. It's being consistent. It's putting your hat in the ring every single time. I know it can be deflating when you get that no, and you've put in hours and hours of work. And we see that. And Keith can vouch for the hours that he puts in for the clients that he works for. Not every single one of them is successful, but you need to just that's when you can review and review that and go again next time that grant opens, or rejig it for the next grant that may open up in a couple of months time. So yeah, it's keeping that positivity of going, okay, we've missed out this time, but let's go again and let's try and refine and go back to the state government or wherever it might be and ask for a bit of a review and say, where have we missed out? What have we failed on, to get some information that you can then bolster your actual application in the future. That's the key.
And they will give you that feedback, Dan?
They will, yeah. I mean, most of the time it's fairly generic, but sometimes if you get in touch with them, there's a lot of people don't. The thing is, a lot of people don't go back and get a review. So if you do ask them, they can give you I won't say detailed. They won't give you everything, but I mean, Keith might have a better idea of what the type of feedback it is. But certainly they can give you some really good pointers of where it is that you have gone wrong, or where you've really, I guess, failed in essence from making that application. Is that right, Keith? Yeah,
that's correct. And I think actually state and federal government are getting much better at it now. I attended a debriefing last week on a state government funding round, basically, where I spent 45 minutes with the applicant and went through the 4 different selection criteria, and where they thought they put in value in their application, but also where they were lacking in their application. So I think there's a learning and an osmosis taking place within state government and also federal government. You're right, Daniel. I think first and foremost, it'll do generic. And basically in terms of, look, this is where basically we think you could have done better here, basically, and I just highlight that and go back and look at it for yourself. But I think now they're getting into particulars because they want a better standard of application and a better standard of applicant. And they're trying to educate people how to articulate themselves better and quintessentially what's really needed. And they're trying to do that at the front end through their education, through their webinars and resources they're putting together, and their Q&As and their live chat forums, but also as a postscript as well, because a lot of these funding rounds, as Daniel said, are annual. And if not even annual, there are multiple times in a given year, as related to in the office and sport ones. So again, they're trying to encourage better applications. And unfortunately, for years and years and years, they haven't necessarily seen that. And I think they're now saying, well, part of that education process is our remit, and we need to do something about that to educate people as well. So watch this space, but more importantly, be, as Daniel said, be part of this space. Don't sit back and just wait for everything to come to you. Be actively involved in this process, and whether it be, as and Daniel said again, involved with your local MP, involved with your local council. Ahead of these federal and state elections that are coming, you need to understand public affairs and government relations and where you're placed in that, because you're a fantastic photo op for them. You're a fantastic community entity. And I remember going to one football club where I stood next to the chairman when he was there with a federal MP and went, look, Mr. MP, these are called voters. Look at all these beautiful people called voters. All right. And it's very much that. And that's what it is, right? And there was a wry smile from the MP, basically, because I could read between the lines. So it's very much basically understanding who you are, what you have, and what you have to sell.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Any other questions for anyone? We're at 8:05 now, so anything else? As I think, as Keith mentioned in his discussions, particularly if you need letters of support from a lot of these grant bodies are asking for letters of support from your state organising body, i.e. Football New South Wales in your case, please get in touch with me. You've got my details there. Don't do it the day before it's due. Give me some time. I can get that letter of support to you. Can give you some additional information as well from an infrastructure, particularly from an infrastructure space in terms of some data that can back up, the reason why you need a drainage system, why you need lights, or whatever it might be. And same again with your participation data. We've got some information there that we can dissect and really get into the depths of, if you're in Liverpool Council, and we can give you some data that can. It might not help. It will help you. You're one club part of Liverpool Council. We can give you some data about how many players are playing in Liverpool that are registered and are playing in Liverpool Council, or playing in a certain suburb, and why your club is. Your club might be the biggest, smallest, in the medium, and you're looking for lights because you don't have any, or whatever it might be. Whatever your scenario is, let me know, and we can help you with some information there that can help bolster your application for whatever those projects might be. But certainly let's not rush it. And again, as we said before, that can be all that information and stuff, and that letters of support can be done well and truly before a grant is even open. And whether it me providing you a letter of support, 6 months in advance, and it might be you just sending me back, a couple of weeks before your actual application is due, and hey, can we just get it updated with some dates, etc. That kind of stuff can happen really quickly, but we can get the actual letter and all the detail before that to you well in advance, so you can tick that box and start doing everything else that you need to do. But yeah, that pre-planning is certainly the key. Okay, thank you again, Keith. Much appreciated for your time once again.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Rod, Michael,
Thank
and
you, guys.
Steve. Much appreciated for your time as well. As I said, this has been recorded. We'll get a copy sent out to everybody. Have a look at the other webinars as well that Keith has done, as well as some information that overlapped today as well, but there's some key information there that you can take home as well, and use as much as you can. And thank you again, and enjoy your evening.